Hello everybody, welcome back to the Stacey West Preview Show. I'm your host, Jake Tong. We're here for another big Sky Bet League One game against Oxford, which only means one thing. We've got Joe Citrone back on the channel. Fourth time now, Joe. How you doing, mate?
Is it number 4, is it? I thought it was hat-trick today.
We had you on both times last year, and then you'll be completing the quad this year.
Crikey, losing count. Yeah, not bad.
Not good. That's good to hear. Let's just get on with it then, shall we? Let's talk about Oxford United, because that's what you're here to do. Fifth in League One at the minute, Joe. That's quite a good start, considering Oxford's sort of really poor start. You know, we spoke at length a few times how, you know, Oxford start the season quite poorly, but they're doing quite well this time around, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think we still had our little bit of a... obviously not quite as bad as last season, the start, but we still had a couple of dodgy results early on where we weren't quite clicking. I think we lost to Wimbledon away, Cheltenham away, and you know, games that really we should be doing better in for promotion side anyway. No disrespect to those sides, but and at Wimbledon we just played and absolutely wiped the floor with them. So you know, still gradually getting better, as I think you'd expect. I think Oxford teams always under Carl Robinson seem to just get better as the season goes on, but I think I said to you last season, I've said to you at some point, I'm sure, last season, if we just had a decent start, not even a good start, just like an okay start rather than a horrendous start, what we had, would have been right up there and pushing for automatics. And this year we have had that, well, better than an okay start. So if we're able to, I think the feeling is if we're able to replicate the form in the second half of the season that we've had the past 2 seasons, then we're in really good shape. And I think January is going to be a big month, whether we can keep certain players and whether we can bring new players in that improve the team, of course. But yeah, we're in a good place at the moment. And I think the feeling around the club is pretty positive.
And based off the fact that you've seen most teams now, I mean, we're halfway through the season, you know, you'd have been able to watch those teams play Oxford, who are also up there, you know, your likes of Rotherham, Wigan, Wickham, all those sort of teams. How do Oxford compare in terms of chances of getting promoted? Do they compare to those really good sides? You know, Rotherham are one hell of an outfit, as are Wigan, and you know, but are Oxford up there on that level?
I think so. I don't think I've seen Oxford get outclassed at any point this season, except when we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot with dodgy performances. You know, we've played all of those sort of top sides now. And I think, again, one of the criticisms last season was we lost a lot of those games we did really well against the sort of middle block and the bottom block. We were winning all those games. And then when we take that step up to play a side like last season it would have been Blackpool and those kind of sides. This year, Rotherham, you know, we couldn't make that step up. We'd lose most of those games. Very best scenario would be a point. This season, we've been able to take points off those sides on a much more frequent basis. We've beaten MK Dons. We've got a 0-0 draw against Rotherham when half our team was out isolating. You know, we lost to Wigan last week. Again, half our team out, but we run them really close. Came back from 2-0 down to get it to 2-2 before they got the winner. Wickham, we got a point off. We took a point at Ipswich. You know, we beat Sheffield Wednesday away. You know, we're a lot more competitive, it seems, against those top sides than we have been in previous years. Whether that means we can go all the way, I don't know. I think we're a better side than we were. This is probably the best team, I think, best squad that we've had under Robinson in League One, I think. Of course, things can change quickly. Football's a fickle game, but it feels at the moment like we've got a really good side with some good depth in key areas. There's a lot more grit about us this year. I think Lincoln may well have had a similar criticism because they play a similar style of football, but when you come up against those kind of gnarly physical teams, Oxford in the past have been a little bit bullied at times, outfought a little bit, where we try and play our football, but we get a little bit bullied. And this year we've been able to compete a little bit more in those sort of scenarios, those sort of games. So I think we're better than we have been in previous seasons, and I think we've got a good chance. It's, again, as I said before, January is going to be a critical month. Cameron Brannagan has to stay at the club, and we've got to strengthen a couple of key areas. I think a striker to compete with Taylor, to rotate with Taylor would be key. I think that's the one we're looking at. And I think if we're able to do that, coming into the second half of the season, we usually finish quite strongly. So I think there's a good feeling around the club. There's a sort of cautious optimism, I'd say, that will go quite well this year.
And before we get on to January, let's talk about your last game, which was a 1-1 draw with Cheltenham Town. Was that 1 point gain, 2 points drop? How did you view that game?
I think it's one gained in the sense that we got quite a late equaliser, but obviously 2 dropped in the sense that, Cheltenham is a side that at home you'd want to be beating, with all respect to them. They're a tough side, and we've played them.
Yeah.
We haven't beaten them in either game this season, simply because they're a side that play quite a deep defence. They're very physical, very, very organised, hard to play against, frustrating to play against, and we didn't quite find that formula against them this season. But to be fair, I think it was a little bit flat, but I think you get those kind of performances. You can't be at your absolute optimum level every game. I think it's going to be interesting now to see how we respond to that in the next game against Lincoln, because the game before Cheltenham was one of our best performances of the season against Wimbledon. So it depends kind of which version of Oxford we get, really. But I think, you'd want to be beating Cheltenham at home, definitely. But nobody's, I don't think, getting too sort of panicky about that result. It's just one that, okay, it's, not a great result, but look, we fought back from 1-0 down. That shows a good level of fight and belief in the team, good attitude. And, look, it depends how we respond to it in the next game, I suppose, to see how good that point is, really. Because if we win against Lincoln, then it's a much better point. If we don't win, it doesn't look so good.
January then. Any rumoured arrivals? I know you said we'll talk about the incomings first. You said you were after a centre forward. Have you seen any names that you guys have been linked with? Obviously, we've got Morgan Whittaker over the line at the moment. An okay sign, and we're not sure what that'll be yet. But have you seen any names linked with a move to Oxford?
You always get the few sort of names thrown into the hat, and I think the big one really that we're all hoping might happen is Marcus Brown, who we've had 2 times before on loan. Not necessarily an out-and-out striker, but can play sort of anywhere along the front line, and somebody who we know really well before. And last time he came on loan, season before last, was just absolutely on another level. Such a good loan signing for us that season, and a critical reason why we got into the playoffs that year. But nothing. I think Carl Robinson said today that he expects a lot of the business in this window, not just from Oxford, but a lot of the business in League One and the lower, just football generally, to happen quite late as people take stock of it's still an uncertain time in football. So he expects a lot of teams to take stock and maybe act later in the window, which I think makes sense. And I think he's probably hinting that we'll probably do the same. I think that's been our strategy a couple of times in January. Wait until those kind of last minute ones crop up that maybe weren't available at the start of the window. I think if you look at the signings we made last season, I think particularly Elliot Lee in January, we got on loan. I don't think on the first day of January he'd have been available, but on the last day he is. I think we'll wait around for those type of signings, as we normally do, and it normally pays dividends for us. So, I don't expect anything immediate. I don't think we're in desperate need of signings. As I said, we're going quite well at the moment, but hopefully 1 or 2 sort of quality additions will crop up that will sort of push us on. But no particular names. Marcus Brown's one. I think we were linked with a centre back yesterday from I think Stuart Findlay or something. I don't know if I don't think we need a centre back. I think we've been linked with him before, and maybe some people are putting 2 and 2 together. I don't know, but maybe a player from Ireland. I think we were linked with at some point, but nothing particularly concrete. It doesn't look like anything's immediate, but hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 through the door.
And you mentioned before we even talked about the incomings that the importance of keeping hold of Brannagan. Obviously, he's been massive for Oxford over the last 3 seasons now. What's the sort of likelihood of Oxford keeping him around, or is he likely to move up to the Championship, and where is he likely to go if he is to move on?
I don't know. I think there were rumours, or there was it wasn't rumours. He had a release clause in the summer, I think. Quite a high release clause. I don't know whether that's coming back into effect. Again, if it is, then it's almost a case of if a club is willing to pay that money, if a club really wants him, they can speak to him. They can go and get him if they really want him. I think Brannagan's the sort of player, because he's one of the few players. We've had a lot of good players in recent years. A lot of them have been sold on. He's one of the few that actually signed a new contract and kind of stayed on when many have assumed he was going to leave. So I think he's a player that really does like playing for Oxford and really would like to finish the job and get promotion. That makes me feel slightly more optimistic that he might stay. But again, if he gets an offer, and it was Blackpool that was one of the clubs that was reportedly interested in the summer. Obviously, Neil Critchley's there. He had him when he was Liverpool youth coach. If Blackpool really want him, they offer him 2 or 3 times his wages to play in a division above. It's very difficult for any player to turn down. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping it will just be fine. But I think Blackpool, I think one of their midfielders got recalled by Cardiff or something.
Yeah.
So they'll probably be on the lookout for a midfielder. If they really want to buy him, then I'm sure we'll have a price anyway. Even if the release clause is there or not, every club has a price. Yeah. But I would hope it'd be a very high price if we're letting him go, because he's been so crucial for us this season, and losing him would be a massive blow.
I think that's Ryan Wintle you're on about that's gone back to Cardiff. Any other departures looking likely at Oxford this month?
I don't think we'll let anybody. I don't think anyone will be bought by a high. I think Brannagan's the one that we might lose when we don't want to lose him, if you know what I mean. We might move a couple of players who aren't getting minutes. People like Sam Winnell, who really hasn't done anything for Oxford. Joel Cooper, who we signed a sort of a big hope from Ireland, from Linfield, and hasn't really struggled for minutes and not really settled into the team, hasn't shown much of what he's about. I imagine we'll go out on loan. Dan Adji, another one who's struggled for minutes. Some of these players might go. But I think, to be honest, if it was down to me, I'd probably keep I'd keep the majority of the squad around. Again, if it comes down to a case of we need to lose one to bring one in, then that might push us to move 1 or 2 players on. But to be honest, I'm happy with the squad we've got. I think 1 or 2 additions would be fine. Maybe one out on loan or something would probably happen. But yeah, I think Brannagan's the one that we're desperate to keep hold of. Again, Mark Sykes and Elliot Moore are not tied down to contracts either, so that makes it interesting whether they might leave on free transfers at the end of the season. I think that's going to be a big part of this month as well, in the coming months, whether we can get either player tied down to a new contract. But I don't anticipate them leaving. I think we'd probably almost rather lose them on a free and get 6 more months out of them than sell them in this window and cash in. So I imagine if we're going to struggle to keep hold of anyone, it'll be Brannagan, but I'm fingers crossed he'll stay.
Let's go on to some key men at Oxford. Then obviously you've got Matty Taylor, who I think we've probably spoken about enough. And one that I've sort of wrote down is Herbie Kane, who you've managed to keep a hold of from on loan from Barnsley. I think he's been quite good at this level before. Just tell us about Herbie Kane and how he's done since he's sort of come into the Oxford side.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. Just a really, really enjoyable player to watch, in particular in that Wimbledon game. I think mainly because Wimbledon sort of gave him the freedom of the midfield. I don't think he'll have many easier games, or respect to them, but just his passing ability, his ability to just ping it 40 yards onto somebody's head is just, I mean, at Wimbledon, he was just doing it time after time after time. It was just unbelievable. Everything he was trying was working. He's been playing a bit of a deeper role to what he's usually played. I think he's more of an 8. I think he was on loan at Doncaster in League One a few seasons ago. He was a bit more of a goal-scoring 8 like Brannagan. This season he's been playing a bit more of a 6, but I think that suits him a little bit better, actually. He's been playing really, really well. I'm quite surprised that we've been able to keep him, actually. All the way up until January, I've almost been, in my mind, assuming he'll leave, especially when you look at how badly Barnsley are doing in the Championship. They're really struggling. They sort of need all the help they can get. I'm quite surprised they haven't recalled him, because, I mean, okay, he hadn't done particularly well there before, but I mean, his form is outrageous for Oxford, and surely he'd be able to contribute something. But I'm not complaining by any stretch, because he is an absolutely delightful footballer and far too good for this level. Just one of those ones you see crop up every now and again at this level. You just think, how on earth are you even in this league? Bit similar to Brannagan, really, and it's a bit of a dream midfield, really, for us at the moment. And that's sort of been our strongest area. And I mean, to get sort of 4, 5, 6 more months out of Herbie Kane in Oxfordshire is just an absolute bonus for us. Really good player, and hopefully I'll have a good game on Saturday.
I think we sort of felt something similar about Brennan Johnson last season in terms of far too good for the level, and you can see it. Anyone under the radar that's gone on, that's perhaps not got the plaudits, of your Matty Taylors, of your Brannagans, of your Kanes, of you know, your Moores. Is there anyone that's sort of? I know Sam Long's a player that you quite like.
Yeah, I love Longy. To be fair, he's had to struggle with a little bit of injury, and he's had COVID and he's been out. So he's not had. He had a much. He got, I think, player of the season last year. Or I certainly voted for him anyway.
Yeah.
And was really good last season. Struggled a little bit of form this year, but I think it's still a very good right back. The one you haven't mentioned who's had a really good season is Mark Sykes. He has, I think, already got maybe 7 or 8 goals this season. Didn't score a single goal last season. So he's somebody who typically has been that sort of classic player, very skillful, very good to watch, and then you ask for the final product and it's not quite there. But this season he's added that to his game and he's gone up another level or two. He's been really, really good for us, either right midfield or in centre midfield. I think he might play in the centre on Saturday if I was hazard a guess. But yeah, he's been fantastic. I think Jordan Thornley at centre back's been quite consistent for us. Again, not outstanding, but just solid, decent. One of those players that I think you probably underappreciate when they're here, and then when they're gone, you realise some of that consistency is just a really good player. It's a good, solid player to have in the team. And yeah, I think those are the guys that have sort of stepped forward this season. Have been really, really good for us. One of my sort of underrated players is Anthony Ford. Don't know whether he'll play on Saturday, but every time he steps into the side, he's does a solid job. But yeah, I mean, we're looking good at the moment. Again, hopefully we get one or two more in. Marcus Brown added to this attack, and I'm getting very excited. But we'll see what happens. You know, we still don't know what version of Oxford is going to turn out. There's still a little bit of, I don't want to call it inconsistency because we've lost like one game out of the last 10 or something ridiculous. That's not inconsistent, but there's just there are times where we can wipe the floor with teams, and then there are times where we can just, we can put in a Cheltenham kind of performance. Hopefully we don't do that on Saturday, and we can show what we're about.
I think it'd be fair to say that Oxford sort of brought their A game last time we met at the Kassam earlier in the season, beat us 3-1. Whether that was Oxford being absolutely fantastic or the fact that we were rather toothless and didn't look like scoring at all, and somehow we managed to score a goal through Anthony Scully. Was you at the game? Could you just let us know how that went? Because a lot wouldn't have been able to attend.
Yeah, that was again a really good performance from Oxford. Again, similar to the Wimbledon game, it's always hard to sort of sometimes judge whether it's your good performance or the opposition's poor performance. I think it was probably a mix of both on that occasion. I think if you, I don't know if you were there or you watched it, but you'll probably agree that wasn't Lincoln's finest hour. And they could probably play a hell of a lot better than that. That was quite a comfortable afternoon for us, really. Again, I think we conceded quite late on and then had a sort of bit of a nervy end, completely unnecessarily because we dominated the whole game. But that was a good performance. Again, we can produce those kind of performances very comfortable, very easy. Hopefully we have one on Saturday. But again, to be fair, our home form, that's something to mention, really. Our home form has been very, very good under Robinson, which is completely in contrast to every manager that's gone before him since we moved into the Kassam. It's been kind of a place that we've never really enjoyed playing in. It never felt like home. And Robinson at the start of his reign said, this is not a great home stadium, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't feel much like a home for us. And I think Appleton, even how well he did at Oxford, never had the best record at the Kassam, whereas Robinson's had a very, very good record at the Kassam, and away is kind of not what we struggle, but we're not quite as confident away as we are at home. So that will be an interesting dynamic in the game, whether we can, we usually a little bit more, I don't know, a bit more of the dark arts come out away from home. I don't know, if we go 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go, you might see some players go down with cramp. I don't know.
Yeah.
We wound up a few Ipswich fans doing that anyway. Let's put it that way.
What did you think of Lincoln that day? I know you said it wasn't our finest hour, but I think it was probably up there with one of the worst performances, especially from our season. Just curious to get your thoughts on how you thought we played.
Yeah, so kind of surprising, really. I'm quite surprised about how sort of poorly Lincoln have done this season generally, really. You always feel as it, when a side, a sort of dark horse goes all the way and then sort of misses out at the end, whether there might be a bit of a hangover and stuff like that. And Lincoln, to be fair, I wouldn't say that overachieving because they had a good team, but Lincoln in terms of budgets are never unlikely to be up there with, against Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich, Sunderland, those kind of big clubs. So I'm not surprised they've had a little bit of a dip, but quite the dip I find surprising. And I was quite surprised by sort of how below par Lincoln were at the Casa Amor in the season. But I think if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Lincoln have sort of been, I think, just longing for January for the last however many weeks. Just let's get to January, let's sign some players. And I think Lincoln, if I know Appleton and how he operates in the transfer market, he'll have some good players lined up. He'll be able to attract them to the club, even though Lincoln are not in a great position in the league, and you'll pull away and be fine. That's what I think will happen. And I'll be astonished if you go down, to be honest, because I still think even now you've got some pretty good players, better than Fleetwood squad, Doncaster, that Lincoln are better than those sides. You know what I mean? So I think you'll stay up. I think you'll be fine, but you need to start winning games. Just hopefully it starts after Saturday.
Yeah, we're in the bottom four now. Quite a lot of pressure on Michael Appleton. I know you're a big Appleton fan, advocate of what he did at Oxford. He's sort of splitting the fan base at the minute in terms of Lincoln City. Does that surprise you in any way, shape or form that he's gone down a bit? Like Marmite, obviously he had a hard job following the Cowley brothers last year. We weren't there to see the success from them, and now we've come back and the football's not as great as what it was. Are you surprised to see Appleton's under fire quite a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, football's a fickle game. I don't know if you saw the tweet I put. I can't remember what it was. It was a bit tongue in cheek. I tweeted something like, Lincoln, it's the best. You're the best manager I'll ever have. And to be honest, it was a bit tongue in cheek, but it is, yeah. Yeah. Although, to be fair, a few Lincoln fans agreed with me. So, I hope Lincoln fans know that want Appleton out, that you are very, very, very unlikely to get a better manager. And I genuinely mean that. You might do. I don't know. There are plenty of good coaches out there. I'm not saying Appleton's the best manager in the world. You could get him, but I'd be amazed if you did. Midway through a season, with Lincoln sitting in the bottom four, I mean, who can you possibly expect to get that's better than Michael Appleton? And if they can give me an answer, fair enough. I just don't think I don't think any of them will be able to. And Appleton, if you stick with him, if you stay up, he'll, again, mistakes have clearly been made this season, obviously. But give Appleton half a chance to rebuild, and you'll go again strong and be up there again. He's a top class operator at this level. And I mean, I still miss him from Oxford. I'm happy with Robertson now at the moment. I'm not saying I want Robertson out and Appleton in, but he's still someone I really admire in terms of his ability. And at this level, I don't see you getting any better than Michael Appleton at all, really. Yeah, I mean, do you agree, or what?
I think if you go down my Twitter feed, I'm pretty vocal on how I support Appleton. Speaking to you quite a lot, I've spoke to a few Oxford fans. I think the bloke's a genius. I honestly, the booing really gets to me, actually, but we won't get into that with Oxford fans. You'll probably, if you were here on Saturday, you'd probably actually see it, and it's quite upsetting, actually. Let's talk about Saturday then, Saturday afternoon. Predictions, really. Are we expecting Oxford to come and turn us over? Obviously, we've made one addition. It's quite a big addition. Morgan Whittaker's quite a good signing for the level. But would you be disappointed if you didn't walk away from a club in the bottom four with all 3 points?
Yeah, of course I'd be disappointed, because we're looking now. I think Oxford, with the squad we've got, with some of the players we've got, I think this season, in my view, we should be looking to knock on the door of the top two rather than just sneak into the top six. And I think if you're going to be that side, you've got to be going away to sides, in the bottom four of the table and picking up 3 points, and you should be disappointed if you don't. That said, I'm not saying Lincoln are in a false position, because obviously, it's been a struggle, but I still think Lincoln have got some good players, and I think they will finish a lot higher than 21st in the league. So it's not your typical game against a bottom four, side, where you sort of expect to pick up 3 points. I think Lincoln are still a decent side that have had their struggles. I think in terms of injury, in terms of, I think if I'm right, you've missing maybe a striker, missing a few players in those forward areas. A couple of signings haven't really worked, which does happen. So I think it will be a harder game than your typical match between 5th place and 21st. But of course, with the ambition that, I think a lot of the fan base are getting on board with now in terms of let's actually see if we can sneak into those top two. Of course, there are big clubs up there, but let's see if we can give it a right good go. I think, you've got to be hoping and expecting a win, but I wouldn't say it's a given, because I think Lincoln, it's certainly a game that I think will be harder than we think. I think, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm me, Jake. I'm not your most optimistic and confident of Oxford fans. I'm not going to come in here and say we're going to smash you 5-0 because I'm just not that way. I'm just not that kind of football fan. Really, I'm always quite cautious in what I say, and I don't want to be don't want it to bite me on the backside if we come on the back of a frustrating 1-0 defeat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of our fans are probably thinking it's going to be closer to the 6-0 scoreline that you were defeated against 2 years ago, rather than the 2-0 win that we picked up against you last year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be amazed if we won 6-0. Let's put it that way. But I do think if we play as well as we did against Wimbledon or MK Dons or one of those performances, we should win the game. One of our problems we've had sometimes on the road is missing chances and not putting our chances away, dominating the game, but not quite having the scoreline to match it. I think we snuck a 2-1 win at Doncaster a few weeks back where we absolutely battered them and somehow almost didn't win. So that could creep into our game, but if we play as well as I know we can do, then we should win the game. But you just never know in these kind of things, do you?
Lovely. Well, I think you'll get plenty of chances anyway. Let's thank you very much, Joe, for coming on. Anything that you'd like to plug? Obviously, your work stuff you plugged last time. If you want to plug that again.
Yeah. Star Sports betting. If you're going to bet on the game, then Star Sports is the place to go, of course. But yeah, follow me, Joe_Citrone, if you Citrone. If you want me to wax lyrical about the joys of Michael Appleton, then that's the place to go. But if you are Appleton out, then maybe don't follow me.
Well, if you're subscribed to this channel and you don't know who this bloke is, I'll be very, very surprised.
I've been on more than you, mate.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, I'll tell you what, Joe. Here's the eye-vis, mate. Here it is. Right. Anyway, thank you very much, Joe, for coming on again. It's been a pleasure. We'll hopefully see you next season. Fingers crossed. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back next week with another preview. Thank you very much for watching.